Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming this afternoon. My name's Francis Grunberg. I'm a senior technical trainer with Amazon Web Services. I've been fortunate to be in this role for the last 4.5 years, and during this time, I've met many customers who've had to start their journey from very beginning with the cloud all the way to very mature customers in AWS. I wanted to take the time today to talk to you about how you can empower your own learning. This afternoon, I'm going to start off by talking about training and why it's so important to us and what we're seeing in the industry in terms of trends. Then I'd like to introduce you to our learning, our role-based learning, as well as our specialty training. Then validation of your skills via certification. I'm going to look at many different training modalities, from self-learning with digital training through instructor-led learning. But I want you to remember there are many other ways to learn, so I'm going to share with you some of my secrets regarding how to stay empowered with AWS and continue your learning journey for many years to come. And then finally, I'm going to show you how you can access our learning paths. As we've all seen, for many organizations, cloud migration is accelerating far more rapidly than we expected even 2 years ago. And this has meant that cloud skills are extremely in demand. Every organization I speak to tells me that they cannot get enough people with validated cloud skills. So how do you go about acquiring and maintaining those skills over time? We had a look at Indeed job postings, and we found from 2012 through 2016, the job postings increased dramatically over that time. Yet these positions were becoming harder and harder and harder to fill. There is a major skills gap in the industry, and cloud expertise is needed now more than ever. If you've already jumped in and created an Amazon Web Services account and you've been playing around and experiencing our services, our agility, you'll find that you're already used to our rapid pace of innovation. If you haven't, this is going to will come up as a great surprise for you. Unlike most vendors who have a major release once a year, AWS doesn't believe in that methodology. In Amazon Web Services, we believe that every single day is an opportunity to release a new service, a new feature to our customers. So as you can immediately take advantage of those services. If I go back to 2010, there were 61 major releases that year. 2016 was 1,017. 2017 was greater than that. This is 3 to 4 releases a day. And that means that no matter what training you decide to take, you're always going to have to keep training yourself, staying up to date with our new services and our new features, and taking advantage of the benefits that they give you. The reality is, if you've worked in IT more than 6 months, you know that you need to have your own education strategy. I myself have been working in the industry for well over 20 years. Where I started in mainframe is so far from where I am today. My ability to maintain my career has come down to my education strategy. I have ensured that I look at the industry trends. I have ensured that I'm always looking to learn more. In fact, it's one of the benefits of working in this industry. You never get stagnant. You're always learning more. Where possible, I encourage you not to just learn more yourself individually, but also involve your entire organization in this. when your entire organization is educated in Amazon Web Services, you can have far more meaningful discussions. You can have far greater adoption of the services. You can lower your total cost of ownership. And you can think beyond today's features and services. It's not just about a lift and shift of a data center into AWS. It is a paradigm shift for your entire organization. And that's what AWS Training allows you to do. Don't focus just on the technical. So as I said, I'm part of Amazon Web Services Training and Certification team here in Australia. We're here to allow you to build your skills to make your transition to the cloud much more efficient and ensure that you get the most out of that investment. And how can we help you? Well, I would recommend, if this is your first approach to the cloud, you have a look at our digital content. We have a Cloud Practitioner Essentials course. This takes you through many hours of digital content, roughly 7 hours. It is not deeply technical. This content introduces AWS services and explains where they fit in the IT landscape. It looks at the benefits of moving to the cloud. It helps you to understand your paradigm shift. Whether you're in a technical role or not so technical role, you could be in finance, you could be in sales. Cloud Practitioner Essentials is going to greatly benefit you. AWS believes that when you do go to the effort of getting the right training, you should be able to validate those skills. Therefore, we have a Cloud Practitioner certification. Post going through the content for Cloud Practitioner Essentials, you then have the opportunity, should you wish, to sign up to do a certification exam. We have a certification partner that has branches all throughout Australia. It is very easy to go to aws.training and then sign up for one of our training accounts and book an exam. Upon completion of that exam, you attain the certification. And once you've attained the certification, you have the opportunity to share that with digital badges or through other social media profiles. As I said, I think this is a wonderful first step, no matter what your job role is, to validate your knowledge of the cloud. Once you have completed the foundation of Cloud Practitioner, we then encourage you to look at role-based learning. One of the most popular paths we have for role-based learning is our Solution Architect Associate. We have courses, instructor-led courses, as well as digital content that can assist you with this. If you're looking at instructor-led training, I would recommend that you do the Architecting on AWS course. This is a 3-day course that's made specifically for solution architects. It gives you the technical foundations in AWS services. Rather than just focusing on the services, we look at those services together and how you can use those services to architect entire solutions in AWS. You will find that this training is quite hands-on, and you get the opportunity to speak with your peers, architect solutions, work on case studies. Now, it doesn't stop with architecting on AWS. There's an advanced architecting course should you want to take your skills further. This goes into much more complex architectures. It goes into AWS services and delves into the detail of connectivity back to on-premises. It delves into the detail of highly available solutions and fault-tolerant solutions. It goes into a lot more detail with some of our more niche services that are often required for larger enterprises. If your job role is not a solution architect, you might find yourself interested in the developing on AWS. Developing on AWS introduces you to AWS services that you as a developer require. You get hands-on practice with our SDKs. You see how the services can be used to build applications. You look at the benefits of moving from legacy infrastructure into cloud services to start building serverless architectures. There is, of course, more advanced training, DevOps engineering on Amazon Web Services. And this takes you in far more detail into the CI/CD environments. Now, if you're not a developer and you find yourself in more of an administrative role, we have an operational role. There is an instructor-led course called Systems Operations on AWS. This takes you into day-to-day management of Amazon Web Services accounts and environments. You have the opportunity to not only look at infrastructure, but also application services. It is very hands-on. You look at the services in terms of day-to-day management. The main focus here is about automation. As anyone in an administrative role knows, the moment you need manual human intervention, it can be a blocker at scale. So we want to create automated environments and respond to changing conditions. After systems operations on AWS, you can then move to DevOps engineering and specialize. And finally, that DevOps engineer, as I mentioned, follows both developing and operations. But it's not always about a specific job role in those three paths. You will also find in Amazon Web Services, training and certification, we have specialty learning. We have specialty learning for big data scientists, where you have the opportunity to look at the AWS services that you can use with your big data frameworks. This goes into great detail with the AWS services that have been built specifically for big data. Your specialty might be data warehousing, and so we do have training that goes into data warehousing in detail. We have services such as Redshift, which is a petabyte scale data warehousing solution. It works with other Amazon Web Services such as S3, our simple storage service, and DynamoDB, and Kinesis for the streaming of data. Of course, if you're more in the security realm, we have a security course. This course looks at Amazon Web Services purely from a security facet. In AWS, security is job zero. So we look at all of our fundamental services and how are they secured in the cloud. Finally, there is, of course, migrating to Amazon Web Services. I find every customer that approaches us already has an environment. This is a physical infrastructure, often with virtual machines. And you need to take that infrastructure and move it into Amazon Web Services. In the migrating course, we look at the most efficient ways of doing this. And this ensures that not only do you migrate your workloads into Amazon Web Services, but post-migration, you optimize in Amazon Web Services. Now, as I mentioned, there is a range of training methods. Digital training is the first one that you should consider. If you go to aws.amazon.com/training, from there you can access our free self-paced online courses. These courses are built by us, by the experts in each of the subject matters. You can browse the catalogue and you can choose all of the areas that interest you. You can build your own learning path. I recommend, no matter what stage you are at in training, that you come back here frequently and you see what is on offer from Amazon Web Services. The digital training is consumed at your own speed. You'll find these courses can be anywhere from a few minutes to potentially hours in the learning path. So it's up to you to manage your own training and look at the areas that are of most interest to you. When it comes to the classroom training, that can be accessed through the same place. We have courses all over the region that are taught specifically by accredited AWS instructors. The classroom environment is wonderful for people who like that interaction. You come together with your peers, you go through very specific training modules, you get hands-on experience with our services in labs and workshops where you get to discuss in greater detail with your peers. Our classroom training is often there to help support people get through certification. And so that leads us to certifications. AWS certifications are there to validate your expertise in AWS. We're going to look at the certification paths very shortly. But once you have finished your training and you have hands-on experience in your job role, you can then become certified to validate that hands-on experience. In terms of our training options, going to aws.amazon.com/training. That's where you will see all of our digital content. And as I mentioned, these can be from a few minutes to many hours. We have on this slide a snippet of some content, but there are many, many more courses than this. Then, of course, there's the classroom training. We mentioned here only a few of our courses: Architecting on AWS, Developing and Systems Operations, the Advanced Architecting and DevOps. But as I mentioned before, don't forget about the specialties: big data, migration. They're all in there and accessible via our website. When you do go to AWS Training, you can browse the catalogue. You can filter for specific keywords, or you can look at specific job roles. And then you will get content that is specifically for you. You choose which training you would like to attend. You create an account within our learning management system to manage your own training in AWS. And then you can go to aws.amazon.com/certification. And that's where you'll see our certifications. As mentioned previously, we start with the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. I mentioned this is for job roles that are not purely technical, but it can also be for people who are technical. I see this as foundational certification for anyone who is involved in the cloud. From that foundational AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, you then choose one of the roles. If you're a solution architect, go through AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate exam. If you're a developer, you go through the AWS Certified Developer Associate exam. And if you're a SysOps administrator, you go through the AWS Certified SysOps Administrator Associate exam. You can choose to follow one of these roles, or you could in fact follow all of them. That's really up to you. The associate certifications will focus on hands-on experience with AWS for approximately a year. Once you have completed an associate certification, you could then consider the professional certifications. We have an AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional that follows the associate. AWS Certified DevOps Engineer Professional follows both the developer or the SysOps Administrator Associate. The professional certifications validate skills for people who've got 2 years hands-on experience. They are very involved, and they are certainly one of the certifications I'm seeing a very high demand for in the industry. If your job role is more of a specialty, we have recently introduced 2 specialty certifications, the AWS Certified Advanced Networking Specialty and the AWS Certified Big Data Specialty. To achieve a pass in either of these specialties, you must be an associate first. As I said to you earlier, I really want to make sure that you get the most out of Amazon Web Services. I recommend not only to look at our catalogue of training, whether it be digital or instructor-led, you can actually accelerate your learning by doing a few things. The first step is to go to aws.amazon.com. From our website, you have an opportunity of creating a free tier account. I challenge you to do that today. Create an account. When you create an account, you get access to a certain number of services at zero cost. In fact, some of our services have a persistent free tier, which means for the life of your account, you can use up to a limit at zero cost. So create your account and log in. When you log in, you get to our graphic user interface. We call this the Management Console. And it's through the Management Console, you can start using our services immediately. In the free tier, you get 750 hours a month of our virtual machines called EC2. I apologise for that short break. Let's continue. As I mentioned, you get 750 hours of Elastic Compute Cloud instances. This allows you to practice with them. You also get access to our relational database service, so you can run a relational database. You get access to many of our storage services. This means you can accelerate your learning immediately. If you go to aws.amazon.com/free, you will see every service that's available in our free tier. Have a look at those services. In fact, go back here frequently because this gets updated every time we release a new service. The next thing I challenge you to do is once you've created an account and logged in, on the Management Console homepage, scroll down and you will find a section that's called Learn to Build. This is where we give you a combination of videos, tutorials, and hands-on labs. It's guided self-learning. If you're a web developer, focus on the websites area. Do all of the projects, and that way you can see how our services fit your job role. But then, once you've completed all of those, try something a little bit different. Go to the mobile services and see the breadth and depth of what's available in AWS. In fact, I've worked through every one of these projects, and I have learned so much more from AWS. As I mentioned earlier, I've been guiding people through AWS for the last 4.5 years. And I've noticed over time that most people learn best when they're experimenting and breaking things. I know I do. When I'm working on a project or a lab and something doesn't go quite right, that's when I have to go back and look at it in far more detail. That's where I have to figure out the context of every single service. What was I doing? And why did that not function the way I expected? That's where I've learned the most. Don't be scared to break stuff. Don't let it stop you from learning further. It's a marvelous opportunity to learn even more. Then, of course, excuse me a moment. I apologise for muting myself. I have a little bit of a cough. On top of all of these options, have a look at our documentation. We have documentation for everyone. If you look on our website, we have white papers, we have case studies, we have architecture reference guides, we have user guides, we have getting started guides. There is a plethora of documentation for your benefit. Look at the documentation. That can give you wonderful ideas as to how to use our services. But I must admit, I've heard people say there's too much. If you go to aws.amazon.com/answers, rather than being overwhelmed with documentation, you will get the more prescriptive best practices. If you like your information to the point and prescriptive, this is where to start. It's where you'll get your questions answered on areas such as account management, security, networking, and so on. It is a wonderful place to learn. We also have an Architecture Reference Centre. The Architecture Reference Centre is where you'll see our architecture references, of course. We have a number of areas there. One of my favourites is This Is My Architecture. These are a series of short videos from AWS customers where they actually draw their architecture and explain what they're using and why. And you can learn from other AWS customers from the Architecture Reference Centre. You'll also find there prescriptive documentation on how to implement some of the most common applications in Amazon Web Services. And then, of course, our YouTube channel. We've got a huge number of videos. Anyone can go to our YouTube channel and watch the videos. I myself save these, and then when I find myself with some time spare, I'll sit and watch as many as I can. Once a year, AWS has a large conference called reInvent. And it's at reInvent we often have some of our best videos recorded, and you'll find them there. So let's go through what would you do if you're a solution architect. I would recommend starting with Cloud Practitioner Digital Learning. And from Cloud Practitioner Digital Learning, within the first 1 to 3 months after, I would then sit AWS Technical Essentials. This is a one-day course that takes you through the foundations of AWS. Once you've sat that Technical Essentials, then use your free tier account to become aware of our services and more skilled, more hands-on, explore our interfaces, try things out. Then consider looking at architecting on AWS, our 3-day course that goes into more detail. Once you've completed that course, take a little bit of time to do some more exploring and more study, and then attain the AWS Solution Architect Associate certification. Once you've achieved that certification, go back to work, continue with your hands-on, and then book Advanced Architecting on AWS. This again is a 3-day course that takes you through those more complex architectures. With more hands-on, more real-world experience, you will then prepare yourself for the AWS Solution Architect Professional Exam. If you are a developer, again, you could start with Cloud Practitioner Digital Learning and Certification, and then book the AWS Technical Essentials course. Use your free tier account to become more aware of other products and services, to explore, to try things out, and then attend Developing on Amazon Web Services, a 3-day instructor-led course. This will help to prepare you for our AWS Developer Associate certification. Once you've attained that certification, continue learning with your account and sit the DevOps Engineering on AWS course. That is a much more advanced 3-day course that takes you through the detail as a DevOps engineer. Get more hands-on experience and then consider the AWS DevOps Engineer Professional certification. If you are an administrator, we have a path for you. Start off with Cloud Practitioner again and attain the certification, and then move on to AWS Technical Essentials. Everything starts there. After that introduction, explore our interfaces with your free tier account, do some of the projects, watch videos, and then sit Systems Operations on AWS. This is a very hands-on course. Take those skills back to work, get more hands-on experience, and then look at sitting the AWS SysOps Associate certification. Then, with the validation of your skills, move into more complex environments and more hands-on. And then look at DevOps Engineering on AWS. Finish off with the DevOps Engineering Professional certification. I've mentioned to you many different ways to learn. I know you probably won't remember everything that I told you, so I have a list of URLs here for you. The first one, aws.amazon.com/new. I look at this every single morning because AWS releases services and features every day. This is how I stay up to date with what we're doing. Check that out. Even if you can't do it daily, do it weekly. Then, of course, we've got training, and that goes into both our digital training and our instructor-led training. Certification takes you to information about our certifications. And don't forget about the free tier. Look at that page to find what you can use for free in AWS. Of course, our architecture center. But as I mentioned, that can become overwhelming. There's a lot of documentation there. So have a look at answers. We have, of course, blogs that you can consume as you need to. And I mentioned our videos at YouTube. There are many places to assist your learning. So this morning we've talked about why training is so important in Amazon Web Services. Not only is it a paradigm shift from what we've done before with on-premises infrastructure, but also AWS believes in rapid change and innovation and always bringing out new products and services. We talked about the role-based learning for solution architects, for developers and SysOps administrators. We also talked about the specialty training, big data, data warehousing, security, and migration. And we talked about certification, how to validate your skills in Amazon Web Services. Last but not least, advantage of our digital training platform to empower yourself. You may not be able to attend a course immediately. You may have to acquire new skills very, very quickly. Our digital training content is there for you to build your own learning paths. Now we're about to go into a question time, but what I'd like to do before I get to the questions, or whilst you're thinking of your questions, I have 3 polls that we're going to present. And this will give you an opportunity to give us some feedback regarding these sessions. Each of these polls will be up on the screen for around about 30 seconds. So please, for each poll, choose your response and help us make these sessions better in the future. Well, now we have an opportunity to get your questions answered. So, what questions do we have?